Marjaraya. That means salutations to cats. Today is Caturday. Because why not? Grateful to be here. I trust you are feeling as well as you can be in this moment, regardless of the circumstances you may be experiencing in life at this time. If you are going through any difficulties, know that this too shall pass. You are absolutely allowed to be feeling whatever you are feeling at this moment. And if you wanted to share how you're feeling, please know that there's space here for that. Namaste, dear crossfires. Hello, dear bubbles. Welcome, G. Hello, Hanukkah. Nice to have you here again. Hello, dear Brittany. Spirit semicircle. Thank you for your honorable vocation. Shri Hasya Chitrakara. You're actually on time, G. You're always on time. Just so happens that on time today means being at the start of the live stream. Thank you, Bubbles. Always happy to have you here, dear Hanaki. How are you feeling? And while you type that, allow me to set the intentions for this space as being a welcoming environment, open to everyone, regardless of background, identity, orientation, ethnicity, belief system, etc. Hello, dear Neon Jello Pack. May we come together as fellow students of life to uplift each other, relate in one another's experiences, and share positive sentiments. Haniki, you're feeling better bit by bit. That's what it takes. Just a little bit every day. You're doing well. Thank you. I got 2 cookies in my tummy. It's a good day when you have 2 cookies in your tummy. Hello, dear Jess. Welcome, Rick. Karu, hello. I'd love to start with an invocation of the Shanti Mantra in the Katha and Taittiriya Upanishads as well. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhanaktu Sahaviryam Karva Vahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the divine protect us both together. May the divine nourish us both together. May our studies be vigorous and effective, and may we not mutually dispute or hate any. May there be peace in us. May there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. Dear Crier, you're wondering, what am I wearing on my head? I don't know. How did they get there? Thank you, dear Dark Saurgor. Saugor. I hope that's how I can pronounce your name in a way that's appropriate. Mr. Driller, thank you for your pair of roses as well. Om Kham Jahnaviyai Namah. Well, I trust you are all well. If not, that's okay. May you find peace and relaxation here, or any other good vibes. But yes, dear Hanaki, if you have to go to sleep, please prioritize that always. Perhaps you would like a bedtime story. We shall be reading the next chapter in the journey home. Namaste, dear Stevie G. This book takes us from the suburbs of Chicago now into the mountains of India as our author discovers their spiritual path. Let's continue where we left off. This is the third chapter of the second act. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. The year 1970 was soon to conclude. I had just turned 20, and dreams of the Himalayas were luring me north. I did not know much about where I was going. I only knew that this part of the world was home to many great sages and holy people I longed to meet and learn from. I was so excited to be in India, on the precipice of great discovery, that I had little time to miss my family. They didn't know where to reach me, so I had had no letters from them since arriving. Still, before making the journey to the Himalayas, I wrote the following message to my home, so far away. My dear family, today I am leaving Delhi to go to the mountains to study. I do not know if I will be able to write often where I am going. Please do not worry if I do not write for a while. With God on my side, what can harm me? With love and thought, Richard. I secured free passage on a third-class train and headed to Rishikesh, a holy town in the Himalayas known for its many ashrams. As the steam engine chugged forward, leaving Delhi behind in a billowing trail of black smoke, I watched the sunrise from my window and prayed that my pilgrimage to the Himalayas would inaugurate a new day in my spiritual quest. Hours later, I arrived in Haridwar, a holy place on the banks of the Ganga, about 140 miles northwest of New Delhi. From there, I commenced the remaining 15 miles to Rishikesh on foot. By now, in my readings, I had devoured page after page about the spiritual legends of the Himalayas. Being here was a dream come true. My first sight of the Himalayan foothills thrilled me beyond imagination. The foothills were covered with dense green forests. I saw each tree as a conduit emitting tranquility. A solitary pilgrim, I trekked along an earthen footpath, swooning with anticipation. From a distance, I caught sight of something that, like a spark, detonated an explosion of emotions. The river Ganga. I hurried forward and pressed my fingers into the cool, rushing blue waters. I shivered. After sitting for an hour in that lonely place, I walked along the riverbank and came upon the quote-unquote Divine Life Mission, which is the ashram of the renowned Himalayan saint Swami Shivananda. This was the ashram where he performed his meditation and established his teachings. This was the guru of Swami Satchitananda, the regal Woodstock guru I had met in Delhi. Shivananda's prolific writings, humanitarian efforts, and personal example had attracted world fame. I had already read some of his writings and was delighted to come across this place. Entering, I learned from some of his followers that before Swami Shivananda left this world in 1963, he chose as his successor Swami Chidananda Saraswati from among his accomplished disciples. Swami Chidananda happened to be at the ashram when I arrived. For a couple of days, I simply soaked in the peaceful atmosphere of the ashram. I learned that ashrams, so prevalent throughout India, were supported by their guru's followers who maintained ties to the everyday world of business and commerce. After the 4th day there, I asked if I could meet Swami Chidananda. I was led into a simple room where I was greeted by the Swami, an extremely friendly, respectful, and humble man who invited me to sit on the floor with him. Swami Chidananda, I had learned from disciples, was born in South India in 1916 as the eldest son of a fabulously wealthy landowner. Around the age of 20, he heard a calling to live as a renounced monk, giving up all material comforts to serve God. It was at that time that he began to serve lepers, building huts for them on the vast lawns of his home and looking after them personally. In 1943, he finally left his home and moved into the ashram of Swami Shivananda, Swami Shivananda in Rishikesh, where he was quickly recognized as a brilliant lecturer. Each morning I attended his lectures. He was a thin man with a shaved head and saffron robes who was revered by both Himalayan ascetics and seekers from the West. Swamiji sat in a cross-legged yogic pose, speaking eloquent English with precise hand gestures. Life is meant for the realization of God, he emphasized. If you die without attaining God realization, your life is in vain. You have wasted away this precious gift of human birth given to you by God. He identified a common problem among spiritual practitioners, that one can do meditation in the morning and evening, but during the activities and dealings of the day show petty-mindedness and selfishness. This, the Swami explained confidently, undid whatever one accomplished in the hours of meditation. He placed a great emphasis on the cultivation of virtue as a fundamental part of one's spiritual evolution. He compared this cultivation of virtue to the work of removing stones, pebbles, weeds, and branches, therein making the soil fertile so that one could plant a garden. Throughout the making the soil fertile, I went back a sentence. Throughout the day, he taught one must sacrifice for others. Morality and high ethics, he said, were like roots on the tree of yoga. He stressed that the disciple should have complete faith that in this age one could achieve God realization through mantra japa, the recitation of God's holy names. You should practice chanting the Lord's name, he said, until you reach a state in which the japa goes on uninterruptedly in the mind, even while sitting or standing, eating or drinking, walking or working, waking or sleeping. I didn't know how to chant the Lord's name, but I was very impressed by Chidananda's teaching. One evening, while he and I sat on the floor of his lantern-lit room overlooking the Ganga and the Himalayan valley, the Swami enthusiastically described the details of my travels with uncanny accuracy and even voiced my most intimate thoughts. He had told me how I had left home and discovered a burning passion to journey to India, risking my life along the way to get here. I had never told him these things, but he knew everything so perfectly. While he poured his blessings upon me, I sat in awe. It was rare to encounter someone with such power and fame who could remain so simple and kind. Longing to be in seclusion and purify myself, I thanked Swami Chidananda and left the ashram. The next morning, while sitting on the banks of the Ganga River, I composed a short letter to my mother. My beloved mother, I am doing just what I think I should be doing here. Rishikesh is a holy city on the banks of the Ganga River. I feel there is much to be learned in the peace and tranquility I have found here. It is quite difficult for me to tell you what I have been doing. I am not so much a tourist or a sightseer. I am more a seeker of my own soul. Living in the East is an entirely different way of life than living in America or Europe. Everything is completely different. It is very difficult to say when I will return, but I will say this. I deeply miss all of my family and all of my friends, and I long to see all of you. But you must understand that I must carry out what I set east to do. Find the true meaning of life. Your loving son, Richard, Rishikesh, Himalayas, India. January 1971. I boarded a crowded boat to cross the eastern side of the Ganga. Large fish swarmed around the small vessel as we sailed across the sparkling aqua current. A cool breeze swept over me. With deep breaths I drank it in, listening to the hypnotic chant of students reciting the Vedas or holy scriptures on the riverbank. Reaching the other side, I walked alone southward along the bank of the Ganga in search of solitude. Finding a quiet place, I meditated, feeling myself millions of miles from the world I knew. Hours later, I spotted someone approaching. Pacing slowly, with eyes fixed to the river bank, was a holy man with a golden complexion, grey beard, hair draped down his shoulders, and robes that rippled in the mountain breeze. He radiated tranquility. I stood to receive him. Raising his soft, wide eyes, he spoke. "You do not know who I am, but I know you. I have been observing your determination. Now offer the clothes you wear to the river Ganga, and today I will award you the cloth of a sadhu." "What is a sadhu?" I asked. "A sadhu is a wandering mendicant who has forsaken worldly attachments to pursue a divine life. Or you may just say, a monk." On the bank of that holy river, he presented to me 2 pieces of unstitched white cloth made of thin cotton. He showed me how to wrap one piece around the lower part of my body to form a lungi, and one piece around the upper part to form a chadar. Then he gave me a loincloth of 2 strips of cotton called a kaopin. Honored to receive this gift from such a kind soul, I placed my western clothes into the river's sweeping current and offered a prayer. My turtleneck and jeans were gone forever. Before departing, the man whispered something in my ear. Given the letter I'd just written home, I found it uncanny. "The Ganga will be your mother," he said. "She will reveal this to you in time." Let's pause our reading of the journey home there for now, and we'll continue this 3rd chapter of the 2nd act next time. If you're interested in exploring some of the insights that may have arisen whilst we read, I'd be happy to do so with you. Namaste. That concludes our Shravana, portion of our Sangha dedicated to listening. Now I'm here to listen to you. We can explore whatever is on our hearts and minds in Manana, the section dedicated to Q&A. Welcome everyone that joined while we were reading. Thank you, dear P-Phlegmatics, for the heart me you sent. Om Namo Gangaya. Dear Fiddly Fig, thank you for your tiny yippee. Dear Witness of Beauty, thank you for your heart me and hand hearts. Om Khang Jahnavyai Namah. Neon Jello Pack, thank you for your baker's dozen of crystal roses. Om Ham Namah Shivaya. And thank you, P-Phlegmatics, for another rosa. Om Dum Durgaya Namah. You like exploring insights, shares Josant. The sights that take us inward. Welcome, dear Noor. Hello, dear Jim. Meow, dear Miananda. Meowananda. Meowananda, the bliss of meows. Hello, dear Jezebel. Dear Noor, you got rid of almost all your clothes today. Sounds like you are practicing the art of vairagya, detachment to worldly things. Thank you, dear Don Suela. All the more to hear you better. Dear Gwendolyn Priya, you share, I like the trilled R's because they sound like a purr. This is true. My cats appreciate them too. When I started learning Sanskrit, and thus I had to learn the correct way to pronounce my R's, as I would practice the alphabet, I'd go through the vowels. I, U. As soon as I got to the vocalic R, my cat's ears would go, oh, he's a speaking our language. And they look at me so lovingly, and they'd start purring too. And then I realized they think I'm purring when I roll my R's. Well, we share love for felines. Shrihasya Chitrakara. Dear Crossfires, you ask a beautiful question. How can we help others vibrate on a higher level while at work if they are only used to lower vibration? While at work, we should have the spirit of seva and karma yoga in mind. Seva means selfless service. Karma yoga means being one in yoga, union, with your actions, with your karma. The general philosophy around work, as it appears to be in the West, is that we slave away to some corporate job, sacrificing our time just so we can generate wealth. to pursue financial security for our family, and with it cover basic needs, and maybe save up for some pleasures and luxuries and comforts. The spiritual way to look at work is that you are meaningfully contributing to the world. No matter what it is, you add value. That's why you're being paid for it. No one would pay for you to do something just for yourself. It must be for someone else. That is why your time, your energy is valuable. If you can be inspired by that, be a role model in your job as finding value in the gift that it is to give to others. Don't think of it as just what creates a paycheck. Think of it as an opportunity to serve others. And when people experience that joy secondhand from you, they'll wonder, what are you doing that we could do also? So how can you make others feel the way for them to do the same? Nobody can decide what another person feels, but what we can do is simply be the best role model that we can be. Even subconsciously, if not consciously, we pay attention to the happiness of others. And when we find someone that is truly happy with what they're doing, we start mimicking, not for the sake of not being ourselves, but because we all want the same thing ultimately, and that's to be happy with what we do. If you can be happy with what you do, people will notice, and that will rub off on them. You started practicing yoga, dear P-Flomatics. Oh, wonderful. All things done in service to the divine. Hello, dear Talon. Welcome, Titan. Dear Michelle, you still wonder whether we as a society will leave capitalism behind us at some point. There are limitations to our current system that we are forced to be in contact with. And by being aware of these limitations, if we can come together as creative thinkers, I am sure that we'll imagine solutions that benefit more people. We can be an example for the people in our own life. Dear Ariana, you share that happiness comes from so many different perspectives, though. It is true. We need as many perspectives as we can get in order to have as wide of a view as possible. We cannot simply study an object from one point of view if the object is 3D and our vision is only 2D. To gain a three-dimensional impression of something, we have to move around, seeing things from different perspectives, even opposite perspectives. But happiness is not what comes from any perspective in particular, but is expressed through an appropriate perspective for the appropriate time and context. Happiness is in the flexibility, in one's fluidity, in one's adaptability to be free. Yes, dear Talon. You are much more free than the world might impress upon you. There's a lot more things you are capable of. In fact, you are infinitely more capable than what the world sees in you. And I know that to be true, because an infinite being cannot be seen in its entirety by finite eyes. Thank you, dear Edward, for your sunglasses. Om Kring Kali Gai Namah. Dear Miananda, you just can't take me seriously today. I hope you never take me seriously. I hope you take me sincerely. Nothing in this world is to be taken seriously, but everything in this world is to be taken sincerely. And sincerity is different from seriousness, because seriousness requires masking yourself, but sincerity demands that you have fun, that you play, engage, without any pressure or expectations. Thank you, dear Deanna, for your Heart Me and Team bracelet. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. Dear Titan, you're wondering what's on my head? Cat ears, of course. Because it's Caturday, the day of the week dedicated to celebrate our furry feline friends. Dear Edward, you ask, have I ever been depressed or in a rut? Absolutely. These are universal experiences. Hello, dear Amber Angel Seed. That's funny, dear Hybrid Jen. I believe in the imagination of children. They are perceptive to a layer of reality that we often close ourselves off to as we age. May you be free to be yourself, dear Edward, wherever you go. Thank you for extending your empathy to everyone, dear Amber. I echo your question. How are we? And how long have I been live today? I've been live for 34 minutes and 49 seconds. And how many milliseconds? How many nanoseconds? No, how many microseconds? Then how many nanoseconds? Then how many picoseconds? Then how many femtoseconds? And then how many attoseconds. And then after that, I think we have to start counting in Planck times. That's right, G. Hello, Cornelius. Dear Mongoloid man, you're wondering, what's the music? We're listening to a song called Lovely Morning. Subtitle, Coronavirus Morning Meditation Music. It's a royalty-free song that I got off of SoundCloud. Dear Gwendolyn Priya, you ask, can I remember what remembering was like yesterday? What a beautiful question. Can we remember what it's like to remember? I'm sure there are many things that I remembered yesterday, but I don't remember now. Thank you, dear Sylvia. Dear Josand, you ask if I happened to read the insight you shared in the Discord. I have not had a chance to yet, dear Josand. But thank you for using that space to express yourself. And thank you, dear John Simon, for your heart me and rose. Om Ganganapataye Namah. Dear Cornelius, thank you for your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiny dinos. Yahoo! And your heart me. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namah. I do have a Discord server. Everyone here is welcome to join. Dear Neon Jello Pack, you share that you vividly remember a moment when you were young where you just realized that you didn't remember anything before that moment, and you made a mental note to start to remember things. That's funny. Do I have a memory of spawning him? I can go back to the time in which I was a baby, breastfeeding, as awkward as that is. But it's true that I remember what it was like to latch on and begin to get my sustenance through my mother's milk. I remember that because it was when I realized for the first time that I could hurt someone. As a baby, you don't have that concept installed yet. You don't realize that you're capable of causing pain to another human. So when I had the intrusive thought to bite down while I was breastfeeding, and I did, and I saw my mother's face, I heard her scream, and I felt as though she pulled away. I was devastated, because in that moment, what happened? And then I made the connection that the thought being acted upon in that moment caused my mother pain. And I didn't know how to forgive myself. I was so scared of bringing pain to my mother like that I never did that again. But it was enough to wake me up and be more mindful. And that's when my memory began. Thank you, dear little wing Nico, for your heartbeat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dear Jim, you ask, what is a Discord server? It's funny because if you're familiar with the traditional definition of these two words, it sounds almost meaningless. A Discord server is someone who serves you discordance. The Discord server is someone here to create discord with you, get into an argument. But in this case, server refers to a hosted internet space. And Discord is the name of a platform that was originally built for video gamers online to share chat rooms to talk to each other in, but it's since expanded to include people from all walks of the internet. You can think of it as a place for internet communities to talk to each other, share information, send images to each other. That's funny, crossfires. Hello, dear Olski. I have cat ears on my head. If you want to remember your childhood, you have to work through the trauma. The only thing preventing us from going back further than any particular cutoff is because of trauma. If we can work through that trauma, you can remember all the way back. It's there. I like your idea, dear hybrid gem. Dear Luca, you ask, what's my best manifestation routine? I know that the divine will give me everything I need. Thus, I manifest the need to not feel like I ever have to manifest anything. One manifestation to end all manifestation. I simply manifest faith and trust that the universe already knows what I need and that it's on its way, and that everything that I have already, I'd be grateful for, and I'd be inspired by my experiences to use what I can for a better tomorrow. Hello, the favorite feminine. Neon Jello Pack, you share that you worry that you've lost a lot of your memories from when you were a teen or young adult. Good news is, psychology tells us you can never truly lose your memory. You can temporarily lose your ability to remember, but all the impressions from your past are still there in your consciousness. This is what the ancient yogis have taught us too from the East. That every experience creates an impression called a samskara that remains in our chitta, our consciousness. You can never be separate from your own consciousness because you are that consciousness. And thus, all the impressions that have been made upon it are with you as well. Speaking of consciousness, Enzo, you ask, why do I think consciousness is not produced by the brain? That's a very good question. You point out the scientific perspective. Currently, the leading theory on consciousness in science is a neurological view of a non-local electrochemical reaction taking place between our synapses that somehow or another generates the epiphenomenon of consciousness. This comes from looking at the physical world, objective reality, as absolute, and therefore subjective reality, individual consciousness, must be a process that exists on top of that physical objective reality. That is an entirely valid perspective, and I'll never say that that's an incorrect or invalid perspective. It's just not the spiritual perspective, which doesn't disagree with the scientific perspective. It only looks from the point of view of consciousness itself. The word spirit in spirituality simply refers to the essence of your being that remains unchanging. That is the consciousness, but not consciousness as we typically understand it, as related to the mind. The mind is absolutely part of the physical, but consciousness is something different from the mind. Consciousness is the subject itself. The reason the subject cannot possibly be created by the objective world is because of its definition that categorically redefines it as separate from objective reality. How can we be so sure that this definition holds up? Well, it's the very nature of consciousness, as the field of experience that witnesses the mind, the body, the senses, the world. From our perspective, not the world's perspective, from our perspective, we didn't experience consciousness arising from a mind, from senses, from a body, from the world. No, we experienced a world arising from our senses, from our mind, from our consciousness. So the spiritual perspective simply centers us in our own reality. If you want to pursue the scientific perspective, that's all well, good, and dandy. It's just not the perspective that actually is true for the way we experience life. And thank you, dear Piggy Peanut, for the heart me that you sent. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. That was a bit of a longer answer. Now I think there's some comments that have transpired since answering that one. Dear Neon Jello Pack, you share, I don't know if I am strong enough yet. How can one reframe that in terms of a possibility rather than an uncertainty? What about, you know that it's possible to be stronger every day? Dear Luca, you ask, what do I think about calculated life paths and its effect? Life purpose. We as humans have an extraordinary ability to attribute meaning to everything. That is our purpose, to be meaning makers. We can take what we know about the way that numbers appear in stories, mythology, and also our day-to-day experiences of pairs and trios and quartets, etc. Use that association paired with numbers that are associated with our life, like our birth date, and combine all of that together to create a fun and meaningful relationship between those positive associations and our life. And that's a beautiful practice that we can apply to ourselves or others. Ultimately, it's just a game. You are free to decide your life. No one can calculate how you are going to behave, because then that would mean your free will would be up to question. Your destiny is forever in your hands. It is true that through things like numerology and astrology, one can infer what's called your prarabdha karma, which is your actions from past lives that are going to make an effect in this life. There are 3 types of karma. That is one of them. Prarabdha karma. The karma coming from past lives, making an effect in this life. That's a subset of your total karma, your sanchita karma, which doesn't all get expressed at once because it's infinite. But no matter how good of an astrologer you go to or numerologist, they can never predict your kriyamana karma, which is the actions that you get to choose today, tomorrow, the next day. That forever lies in your hands. So as long as you are living consciously, the rest of your life is up to you. To clarify, Jim asks, do I believe in astrology? The way my mind works might be a little different from the way another person's mind works when it comes to the topic of belief. Personally, I don't use the term belief to describe perspectives. Perspectives are things that you can choose to look through. When someone chooses to look through a perspective, you might say they believe, but it can carry the connotation that they choose to only look through that perspective. Or if someone says they don't believe in something, that might mean that they choose to exclusively strive to not look through that perspective. I see every perspective as on the table, and you can choose to look through any one of them in particular. Astrology, numerology, divination, these are perspectives to understand what's called prarabdha karma, which are actions, karmas, that are coming into birth in this life from past lives. There are things that are within that domain of discourse that benefit from these perspectives, but the domain of discourse is also limited, and therefore other perspectives are better suited for things that lie outside of that domain of discourse. In other words, there is a time and a place to apply any perspective. There's also a time and a place to seek another perspective. There's truth and limitations to be found in each one. None of them absolute, and none of them necessarily meaningless. They all have meaning, but they also all have boundaries. Dear Monica, you're wondering if I can talk a little about Kali today. You find yourself drawn to her. Of course, Kali represents all of the repressed parts of the feminine, at least in today's society. In previous ages, she represented things that were very much a part of society, expressing the feminine. But nowadays, these parts of the feminine have become repressed. Kali literally means time, time-like, the time-like one, or the dark one, because Kala can refer to both space or time. Space is dark, time is a part of that, which Einstein proved many thousands of years later. Kali refers to the feminine as the ultimate controller of space and time, i.e., causality. And she is depicted very fierce, often with her tongue sticking out, with blood dripping down, because the masculine is so afraid of her bleeding. But devotees of Kali, they even take that blood and use it as a forehead dot to show reverence to such fierce form of the mother. Kali is what happens when you... Kali is what you see when you back the feminine into a corner and her nails come out, her teeth come out. She's ready to cut off your head for the sake of ensuring her purpose in life, to take care of all of the divine children of this world. She is what is needed in the feminine today. Not this cute and dainty feminine that yields when threatened. Not a submissive form of the feminine. A dominant form of the feminine that comes out to ensure that justice is served to those that disrespect the vulnerable and take advantage of others. Dear Tor, you ask, how do you look at something in your original pure state of consciousness? It's very simple. Don't think you know anything. Look at everything as if you have no idea what you're looking at, and just be mystified. Just like a baby, fresh out of the womb. You don't have to make that face. But that sentiment of, what the hell am I looking at? Don't make conclusions, assumptions about anything. Then you are looking at it from your original pure state of consciousness. Dear Luca, you share, season is coming, you need to get a job. You have the same spot for last year, but you don't want to do it as you have other passions. You are triggered about it and you don't want to get your soul exhausted. I can tell you, that you can do what you don't want and still fail. Even a safe and secure, quote-unquote, option can still be taken from you. So if you have the ability to fail at what you don't want, at least give a shot to try your worth at what you do want. Dear Sylvia, you ask, who is Lalita Devi? She has not revealed herself to me yet, at least not by that name. Hello, dear AOS. We are going into the year of the snake. Thank you, dear Liz, for your rosa. Om Braum Hanumate Namah. Dear Rahina, thank you for your heart me as well. Om Kring Kalikai Namah. Dear Miananda, you share my tip on not judging to not absorb other people's energy work today. I'm so happy to hear that for you. Hello, dear Marcy. Thank you for sharing, dear Biggie. All paths to the divine are valid. And I wish you success and faith in yours. Dear Hech, welcome back, and thank you for your septet of rosas. Om Aim Saraswatyai Namah. Dear Deanna, thank you for your tiny dino. Yippee! I have not heard of that, dear Marcy. Thank you, dear V. Dear Rio, you ask, how do you care for someone in grief? Giving them ample space and time to pour their heart out without judgment. We want to console them, comfort them, but we have to do so without taking away the validity of their pain, because their heart yearns to be in pain. Although it might sound weird to say, the best thing you can do for a grieving person is let them grieve, because it's not the grief that's taking them away from peace. It's the grief that's taking them towards peace. We comfort them by providing them an ear to vent, or arms to be held by as they cry. We give them that space, that time, to let that heart pour everything that it was saving up to give the person, or give that moment or event or opportunity that's no longer there, that they're grieving. Our heart is always writing little love poems in the form of gift ideas, opportunities to experience stories together. A certain narrative is scribed by our heart. when the heart realizes that the stories it has written no longer matches reality, we have all this literature which is no longer going to be non-fiction, and now it's fiction. We have to process how we take the meaning and value that we placed in those stories relative to the reality we now live. That's a logistics problem, and logistics requires time and space. Dear Marcy, you ask, is there any chakra that is only present in women or vice versa? That is a very interesting question, dear Marcy. I am not aware of any chakra that's only present in women. But the feminine body, the female body, all bodies are feminine, by the way, because they all come from the mother. They're all sourced by Mother Nature. But the female body does have an incredible power when it is healthy to bring life into this world that this body of mine certainly can't do. But does that speak to a differing ability at a fundamental level? Because at a fundamental level, we all can bring life into this world. No matter if you have a functioning womb and ovaries or not. The energy comes from the soul that we all share. Even if your body is different, you have that same energy to usher into this world. Such is why we can reserve the term baby, not just for what comes out of the womb, but for children you may adopt, for pets, for creative projects, even for your partner, because you're still exercising the same energy, regardless of biological capabilities. You are growing something in this world. Speaking of which, dear Tanya, you share that you are newly pregnant. What a blessing and honor that is. I pray that during this time your body is taken care of and your mind is filled with all sorts of happy thoughts and all the emotions that naturally come from the carousel of thought. What you are going to do with a baby in this world. That energy be handled with care, grace, and that those who are generous in your life take time to care for you, the mother of a soon-to-be child. And you have trust in yourself that you are bringing something into this world which is meant to be here and will change the destiny of everyone on this planet, bit by bit. Thank you, dear Sean, for your 6 roses too. Om Bhram Bhairvaya Namo Namah. Thank you, Master Mix Promos, for the rose you sent to. Maya Shaktai Namah. Dear Neon Jello Pack, you understand that death is an uncomfortable topic, but you wonder if it hinders us in our growth. There is absolutely truth to the idea that if we are overtly conscious of our mortality in such a way that it hinders the way we live, then it is best to move on, in some sense, from being so attached to your own demise. At the same time, being so averse to the idea that you never want to think of it is unhealthy in a different way. So there is a balance of being aware that you might not have another tomorrow without placing emphasis on that idea over the idea that you might indeed have a tomorrow. You could be, you could not be. Is that going to make a difference on how you live your life today? That is the question. No matter when death comes, as long as it's not here yet, how are you going to live in this moment? Do you want to live ignorant of death? No, we don't want to do that. But do you want to live terrified of death? No, we don't want that either. So we have to find some way to accept the possibility, inevitability, but also be free from feeling like that burdens our relationships, our ideals, our inspirations in the present moment. Hello, dear Bob. Namaste. And thank you, dear beautiful Crystal, for your pair of finger hearts. Here's a pair for you. Am Namah Parashaktai. I'm happy to hear that, dear Piggy Peanut. Dear Spinidha, you ask, do I also wish that I go back in time and correct the mistakes? That would be, to do so, that would be not taking accountability for what I have to change in the present. If we want to change the past, then we're not placing enough value in the present. We feel like we've lost something due to our actions before that we can never get back unless we had a time machine. But that means we have yet to truly understand the reason time flows in such a causality. We are not here to change the past, and our past, however, is here for us to draw inspiration from. We can learn from our past. Our past is there to teach us, so we don't fall into the same cycles today. The journey of life is not meant to be a perfect track record, where it's all gold stars and never any blemishes. Are we going to judge ourselves for making mistakes like every single human does in the history of this existence? Are we going to see our life as a balance between all of the good we do versus all of the bad we do? Or does it not matter how many mistakes we've made, and instead place value in how many mistakes we rectify, how much we take accountability for, and how we are humble when we happen to do something that works out? That's in shifting our identity from the doer to the resolver. That's in shifting our sense of self from the results of our actions into the actions themselves. We see that the divine or the universe or the higher self, whatever you want to call it, it creates the outcome. Sometimes dependent on our actions, sometimes independent on our actions. But it's always for us to learn some lesson. That when good comes from our actions, can we be humble and see that that's a grace that came from the divine, and we can't take credit for that. And when we do limit that universal self that desires to be born through us, can we take accountability for that? That all good that is done comes from up above, not I. But all pain that is done is for me to realize how I can be more open. And that's a grace in disguise. Thank you, dear Gina, for your rose and crystal rose. Om Namah Karling Mambita Me Sharing Nadita Me Haring Devita Me Aing Sarasvatyai Swaha. Good night, dear Arahina. Goodbye, dear Sky Guardian G. Black heart emoji. I am indeed wearing cat ears. Well said, dear Piggy Peanut. Dear Ryan, you ask, do I believe the soul continues after death? That's like asking, do I believe that the Pythagorean theorem is true? The good news about theorems in mathematics is that they don't require belief. They simply require understanding how the logic behind it functions. That according to very simple definitions, you can prove to yourself that the squares produced by the side lengths of a right-angled triangle have the property that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That is a truth not given by the authority of some mathematician who proclaims it as such and you must listen, but by the logic that you can follow yourself. The simple logic that leads you to the conclusion that the soul continues after death is just like the logic that leads you to understand that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The definition of the soul is the unchanging part of a being. It's not a conclusion. It's a definition. We define this word soul to be whatever it is that remains. So, the corollary that the soul continues after death is not a matter of faith, but the very definition of the soul. Now, you can't question the existence of a soul. That's completely valid. But there's no need to question if a soul exists, that it survives death, because that follows directly from the definition. What remains to be proven then is the existence of the soul. Now, I would love to give you a proof of the existence of the soul. Sadly, I am unable to do so. And that's not my limitation. That's a universal limitation. One cannot prove the existence of the soul, because the soul's existence is unprovable. An axiom, by definition, is not something derivable from anything prior. It is the foundation on top of which we make observations. This is a very different perspective from one we might get from school. The scientific perspective is often that we make observations and then come up with hypotheses that support that observation and then test those theories. The nature of the soul, unfortunately, lies outside of scientific method. It's a different way of thinking in the West versus the East. In the East, what makes a truth valuable is not the evidence that has led into it, but the evidence that comes after it. That if you take the assumption of the existence of an unchanging part of you, and then see what kind of deductions you can make from that, and notice how that affects the way you live your life, you will see there's something special about that assumption. It's like a missing piece. If you go through life with this idea in mind that there's an unchanging part of you, you'll find that idea to be very fruitful. It leads to consequences, realizations, conclusions that benefit you. So it's almost a matter of practicality in subjectivity. Dear Nervous, you share you did a little 8 days fast and you're so happy and feel so good. Oh, I'm very happy that that worked out for you so well. May your transition back to eating be one that's taken very slowly and with consciousness of how your body behaves to breaking your fast. Crossfires, you ask, isn't it difficult to? You'll have to tell me what is difficult. My apologies. Sometimes when these questions are responded to, by the time I read a comment, I must have lost the context to which I was speaking in that moment. Dear Piggy Peanut, you ask, from my observations, do I believe that I have a soul? Again, this goes back to what I was saying about the soul not being something you can observe based on your experiences, but a definition. So it's not a matter of believing that you have a soul. It's a matter of making that a foundation to your perspective. That if you did have an unchanging part of you, how would that affect the way you see life? That is to say, instead of having a sense of self that's based in the body, that's based in the mind, what if your sense of self was something subtler than that? You might call it spirit, you might call it soul. The scientific word is consciousness or awareness. What if that is what you are? To people who hear this idea for the first time, probably doesn't make much sense at all. What does it mean to be consciousness, be awareness? It means that you are not that which you can see, which includes the body, not that which you can hear, which includes your voice, your thoughts, not that which you can know, not that which you can come to experience through the senses. You are on the other side of all that. You are something more abstract. You are formless. You are spaceless. You are timeless. You are invisible, unattached. You are consciousness. You are awareness. You are the beingness, transcendental to anything material, that which sees but cannot be seen, that which hears but cannot be heard, that which knows but cannot be known. Fire cannot burn it. Water cannot wet it. Wind cannot dry it. The earth cannot dirty it. Space cannot contain it. Carrie Lou, you ask, is there such a thing as true love or soulmates? I believe that every person you meet in life is meant for you at that time. Even if it turns out that you go separate ways in life, does that invalidate the truth of the love you had shared for that time? Does love have to remain in the same form forever for it to be true? I would say that all love is true, but most love comes with expectations. It comes with demands. This is no one's fault in particular. We're all on a journey to becoming more unconditional with our love. The more you can be unconditional in your love, the more you can fall in love with anybody equally. Dear Crossfires, you share that hopefully consciousness will never be able to be caged, but they are scientifically working on it. good news is it's not a matter of hope if consciousness will be free from being caged. It's an impossibility. Consciousness is that which contains the whole reality. If anything is caged, it's the scientists who think that they can contain it. They are trapped in their own ideas of trying to capture light in a bottle. Just try cupping your hands in a lit room, turning off the light, and checking. Were you successful in trapping the light between your hands? No. Dear Majesty, you ask if I read DMs. Not on TikTok, but on Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram, and email. I go through all of my DMs for free. Dear Spinudha, you ask if Buddhism takes suffering as the foundation of life. Buddhism does not take suffering as the foundation of life, but it does posit that suffering is the most universal experience of life. That life is not built on suffering, but that suffering is something we all experience. That's the first noble truth of Buddhism. And it's said that that's all you need in order to deduce the rest of the Buddhist philosophy. All Buddhist philosophy unravels itself from that observation. It's like a question. If you were to make a religion that used this observation, that suffering is a universal experience, as a tenet in its philosophy, what kind of religion would it become? That's Buddhism. Buddhism is what happens when you take the observation that suffering is a universal experience as an idea that you gently bring your awareness to and unfold from there. The second noble truth of Buddhism is that suffering has a beginning. So it isn't the foundation of life, because there was a time before suffering. The third noble truth is that suffering comes to an end also. And lastly, the fourth noble truth is that there is a path leading you from the beginning of suffering to the end of suffering. That these two things are not separate. That once suffering has begun, you'll never reach the end of it, even if there is an end. That yes, you will walk the path one day. And thank you, dear Reina Priya, for the rosa that you sent. Om Bhurmubhuvasva Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Interestingly, dear Jim, death is not the end of suffering in Buddhist philosophy. Buddhists also believe in impermanence of experience. And therefore, everything that comes to appear also one day disappears. And that includes your own mortality. Since all things come to pass, yes, that includes your life. But it also includes death. Because nothing is permanent in terms of our experience. The only way out of suffering, therefore, is to go beyond the experience itself. That we are not looking for answers in terms of some experience that comes and therefore goes. We find truth in something completely different than experiences of the senses and mind. We seek a higher kind of refuge, a more abstract kind of refuge, something that requires going outside of the box. Not just thinking outside the box, but knowing outside of thought. The box is the mind. And that's right, dear Cornelius. It feels like any attempt to seek the way out, quote unquote, is merely an indulgence in the spiritual journey, strongest melodrama. And if there was a last page in the Vedas, the last page would read as such: the only thing you have to escape is the desire to escape anything at all. You have always been free, even in your lowest moments. This drama of life is a passing play. Your darkest thoughts, your deepest sadness, your fiercest anxiety, none of that has ever contained you. From day one, you have been free. Your consciousness always is eternally transcendental to the experiences of life. Nothing can break you. Nothing can destroy you. Nothing can truly separate you. This body and mind may get hurt, but the fact that they can heal proves that there has always been a part of you that remains healing. Thank you, dear Trace in Space. And that is right, Cornelius. Ultimately, suffering is a relative construct. Thank you, Talita, for the heart me you sent to. Ashwini Bhyam Namah. I love that, dear G. Ultimate reality is a relative construct. Cornelius, you so beautifully, rhetorically ask, how often do we search for something that was clasped within our grasp the entire time? Hopefully always. Within each moment. The seeker is the sought. But the finder isn't the found. Remember that. The seeker is the sought, but the finder isn't the found. Dear Stevie G, you're wondering if I can please share your show and tell. Perhaps another time, dear Stevie G. I'm very grateful for all the songs that you've shared thus far. I would love to give space for other things right now. Speaking of which, I have a question of the day that I'd love to explore with you. Today I'm wondering, what is the power of solitude? What is the power of solitude? Much love, dear lion. Cornelius, you ask, does seeing the reflection of myself on my screen detach me from identifying with Yam? Let's just say I am detached from the concept of detachment. I have no problems with or with not identifying with who I see on the screen. It is both me and it is not me, and I don't worry so much about the difference. Dear Saint Martin, you share, what is the power of solitude? It is peace within yourself. Discovering that refuge. Dear David, you ask, what do I think of Christianity? I think if you are Christian, that I wish you to be the best Christian that you can be. If you are Buddhist, I wish you to be the best Buddhist that you can be. If you are Jain, I wish you to be the best Jain that you can be. I don't care what gets you to the top of the mountain. All I know is that once we're at the top together, we are one. Thank you, Waterwood. Edward, you share, it is something that is always there. We are only us. Others don't. Untimely. Dear Lion, you share, it is to find God and all its creation in yourself. Dear Michelle, you share you have learned so much about yourself in solitude. And Don Suela, you share that solitude allows space for clarity of thought and emotion. Such peace. Yes. Trace in Space, you share the power of solitude for you is peace to interpret what you witness and absorb. Provides a time and space to process. Hybrid Jen, you like the feeling of solitude because you feel yourself. Thank you for the follow, Matthew. And thank you for sharing the live, Danny. Cornelius, you share that solitude encourages room for being, for cultivating spaciousness, for thriving in stillness. I love that, thriving in stillness. Jai Shri Hasya Chitrakara. And feeling yourself is being vigilant, shares Hybrid Jen. How poignant of you. Thank you for saying that. Yes. Solitude by choice, indeed, dear Noor. Reina Priyaji, you share solitude seems to slow down time. That makes sense. Jim, you share feeling alone and seeing the stars above, universes apart, yet forming constellations. How deeply poetic. I love that. Ms. Bliss, you don't know what the power of solitude is, but you know that you live in solitude. You don't know. Dear Extranut, you ask, why is 69 afraid of 70? Because they fought and 70 won. Banjo Farts, you share. Solitude helps to drown out influence and hear the truth. I like that. Hello, dear baby. Dear Trace in Space, you ask, do I experience fluid time or am I still structured? I don't understand the question. I'm just happy to be here. Dear Dancing Aurora Borealis, you share, it takes away all masks and is therefore pure. Well said. Thank you for making me laugh, dear Extra. Hello, dear Kimia. These are all wonderful answers. Thank you, everyone. Crossfires, you share that they're asking, do I have my days structured with time, or do I just go with the flow every moment? Well, I try to be a little structured. I'm not very good at it, though. I call it living on island time, where things get done when they get done. 5 minutes could mean half an hour, I don't know. Could mean 3 days. Sometimes it feels like a single moment lasts forever. Dear Noor, you share, if you are forced into solitude, it's because the Allah wants you all to Himself. I love that. I love that a lot. Dear Caleb, you ask, what makes the rich take advantage of people? Because they are poor in heart, so they try to make up for it with worldly riches. But truly, the wealthiest people in heart are the poor, and the poorest people in heart are the rich. If you are rich in heart, you know that not a single dollar in the world means anything to you. Dear Trace in Space, you ask, my memories, are they structured or do they linearly diminish? Curious about my experiences all. My memories are definitely atemporal. That you ask me when I remember something, I don't have much of a basis. I don't feel like I am living in the 8th of February 2025 on a Saturday at the age that I am. There's this moment, and I am the same consciousness that has been since I was a baby and before then. Dear Tor, you ask, ain't the power of solitude rebirth? I love that. And welcome, dear Sarah Lynn. Dear Hybrid Jen, you feel tapped into other places being in solitude. I love that. Ms. Bliss, you share that solitude is lonely, but peaceful, where no one can hurt you. It is safe. You get to be 100% you. Cornelius, you share the deadlines for relativity responsibilities exist regardless of flow. This is true, but I trust that whatever needs to be done, I will be brought into experiencing that necessity. Deanna, you love and honor solitude. You are teaching the littles that you work with to meditate and have at to honor solitude and embrace it. I love that. I almost never showed up on time for work. This is true. Fortunately, my boss never seemed to care. The bosses that I've had. Crossfires, you share, you make 3 days feel like a moment. It is just a mental state. Dear Salil Chander, you ask, why is there war? So that we can make peace. What would peace be if there was nothing to make peace for? Oh, this conflict in the world, it's for us to be able to make a difference. Every time there's a challenge, some adversity, some difficulty, then we shall be inspired to take what we know can be made possible and create a reality that fosters that. Thank you, dear Sarah Lynn, for your your heart meat and rose. Om Ram Bhairvaya Namo Namah. Hybrid Jen, you share that solitude is calming, but as a kid who didn't have fam around it, can be very sad too. Indeed. Good morning, dear Eddie. Have a great night, dear Saint Martin. Dear Salil Chander, you share that you're a Hindu. Am I a Hindu? There are no Hindus. The term Hindu came from the Persians when they looked at the culture of Bharat beyond the Indus River, and they said, that's all Hindus. The only term that was ever used in Bharat was Sanatana Dharma. But Sanatana Dharma is not a religion. It is the eternal way of life. All so-called religions are merely contained within the Sanatana Dharma. It is an encyclopedia of all possible paths, and not any path in particular. Dear Cornelius, you share, if negative exists to balance positive, they are merely symptoms of existence. So aren't there further layers to peel? To me, there is no such thing as negative and positive. There is only existence, and that existence has some places which have been given a lot of attention, a lot of love, a lot of help. In those places, we might reserve the term positive. There are other places which have yet to be given a lot of attention, a lot of care, a lot of love. You might call those places negative, but it's all part of the same existence. The only difference is some places have already been given an ample opportunity to be loved, cared for, attended to. And we have infinite more room to bring love, care, and attention to. Everything is just at different stages of unfolding, and things naturally unfold in the presence of attention, in love, in care. It's time for water. All right. I love that, dear Trace. Time passes as quickly as we notice it, just like the clouds, like thoughts that pass through our mind. Dear Deanna, you share that Nag Champa enhances your moments of solitude. I have Nag Chandan. Tor, you share the power of solitude might be to reclaim and cleanse what was given and taken. I like that. Dear Cornelius, you ask, do I feel more attached to the negative energy? Your attention exists more within suffering. It's easier to dissolve into awareness of sensation when the negative ones are so powerful. When we use the term negative with the term energy, we've actually created a contradiction, because energy is a presence. Negativity means the absence of something. So how can you have the absence of a presence at the same time and call it as a presence? There is only energy and room for more energy. When we say someone is being negative, does this mean they have a presence of something that opposes positivity? Or does it mean that there's an opening there for more positivity, something that complements it. Therefore, just as Noor shares, there is no such thing as cold, just lack of warmth. There is no such thing as negativity, only a lack of positivity. They are not oppositional, they are complementary. And Tor, you rightly ask, does solitude have merely one purpose? You don't know, but if you were to narrow it down, you would say transcendence. I love that. And user 680, you share that solitude for you can mean self-care. I like that. Trace in Space, you share that if you see suffering as opportunity for growth, as a mindset shift, suffering is no longer negative. Indeed. Cornelius, you ask, can I discuss surrender? How can one surrender to the need to surrender? Don't think of surrender in terms of giving up. Giving up means that you become captive to your captor. That's probably the way most of us understand the concept of surrender in the West. We think surrender means that you let your enemy take over. But this type of surrender that is translated from other words in the East is a very honorable thing. It's not about letting your enemy take over. It's about letting your friend take over. It's about seeing what you used to be in resistance to now as a force for good that you can be but a part of, rather than a force against. When we surrender to the moment, it doesn't mean giving up. It means that you trust in the divinity of the moment. That whatever is happening before you is unfolding in a beautiful, meaningful, purposeful way. And therefore, you don't have to be against any part of it, but add to that in a harmonious way. It's like you're trying to listen to your favorite song when there's an orchestra nearby playing a different song. And for as long as you are attached to the song that you want to listen to, the orchestra sounds like noise, distraction, taking you away from what you want to enjoy. But the moment you surrender to the song that the orchestra is playing and listen to that instead, maybe even join, take out your own instrument and add to the harmonies of the orchestra, the exact same song shifts from one that was annoying you to one that you feel proud to be a part of. That's surrender. Dear Cornelius, you feel that meaning is at its core devoid of any source or definition. The meaning is just the existence, and still the ego searches for purpose. And this is no mistake. if we understand that there are two layers of reality happening simultaneously. There's the material existence, and then there's our spiritual existence. Material existence is empty, without spirit. It does not tell us about how it should proceed for us. We are the ones that get to decide what we do. It just provides the material. We get to decide what kind of meaning we want to make with the characters and the props and the settings that are given. It's like walking into a play. The stage is there made for you. All of the actors and actresses are there for you. All of the props, all of the backgrounds, all of the lightings, it's all there for you. That's material. But it's up to you, as an actor, an actress, to cooperate with other actresses and actors to decide what kind of play you want to put on. What kind of meaning do you want to imbue? What story do you want to tell? That comes from the spirit as the meaning maker. That's funny, Jim. Surrender is like committing to a bad movie with a good ending. I think we've all watched a movie or two where for the majority of the movie we thought, this is terrible. And then the writer pulls out an ending that justifies all of the terribleness of the movie so far. And you're blown away. You go, wow. Okay, maybe this is a good movie, but you have to watch until the end. You have to commit to it to get the satisfaction. If you walked out beforehand, you'd never know. Dear Cornelius, you ask, if Krishna said he is time, who perceives the one perceiving themselves as Krishna? A good question. Ultimately, no one does, because you can't actually perceive the perceiver. Not in full, anyway, but in part. Everything is Krishna. This body is Krishna. This microphone is Krishna. This almost empty cup of water is Krishna. Everything around us is little bits and pieces of Krishna. Can you see all of it in its entirety at once? No. Because the witness is infinite, but that which is to be witnessed is only a finite slice of that infinity. And you answer our question of the day. What is the power of solitude? Peace of mind. I love that. Dear G, you share I'm on fire tonight. Really? I'm on fire? Thanks for telling me. Am I still on fire? Or have I doused the flames? That could have been dangerous. Dear Spinudha, you ask, do I believe in character or self? The self is our true essence. Our character is the part of that self come to play in this moment. But we have many characters in this play on behalf of the infinite self. Dear Cornelius, you ask, how do I know I didn't pour lighter fluid? Well, there's only one way to find out. I think it might have been lighter fluid. Thank you, Timothy, for your rose. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to my Leela. All right. I'm going to pause the question of the day there for now. I thank you for exploring it with me. Oopsies! Thank you, dear Deanna, for the rosa you sent too. Om Kamalir Mahakalikai Nama. I think it's time for another episode of Ruminations. Let us read from the mystical poetry of the Sufi. This poem is called To Take a Step Without Feet. Let's dive right into it. This is love, to fly toward a secret sky, to cause 100 veils to fall each moment. First, to let go of life. In the end, to take a step without feet. To regard this world as invisible, and to disregard what appears to the self. Heart, I said, what a gift it has been, to enter this circle of lovers, to see beyond seeing itself, to reach and feel within the breast. My soul, where does this breathing arise? How does this beating heart exist? Bird of the soul, speak in your own words, and I will understand. The heart replied, I was in the workplace, the day this house of water and clay was fired. I was already fleeing that created house, even as it was being created. When I could no longer resist, I was dragged down, and my features were molded from a handful of earth. That's to take a step without feet. Shall we read another one? Once we start reading Rumi, it's hard to stop. One more. This poem's called This Body is a Rose. Each form you see has its unseen archetype. If the form is transient, its essence is eternal. If you have known beauty in a face, or wisdom in a word, let this counsel your heart. What perishes is not real. Since the spring head is timeless, its branches refresh. Since neither can cease, what is the cause of your sorrow? think of the soul as source, and created things as springs. While the source exists, the springs continually flow. Empty your head of grief and drink from the stream. Don't think of it failing. This water is endless. From the moment you came into the manifest world, a ladder was offered for your escape. From the mineral substance, you became a living plant, and later a roving animal. Is this a secret? Afterwards, as a human being, you developed reason, consciousness, faith. See how this body has arisen from the dust like a rose? When you have surpassed the human state, your angelic nature will unfold. In a world beyond this world, surpass the angels then and enter the sea. Your drop will merge with 100 seas of Oman. Let go of him you called son, and say one with your life. Although your body has aged, your soul has become young. That was, this body is a rose. Thank you for listening. So beautiful. I agree, dear dancing aurora borealis. Thank you for your rose, dear Gwendolyn Priya. Ram, Ram. All right. What a wonderful live stream we've had thus far. Thank you for your pair of roses, dearest G. Om Kamalir Mahakali Kai. Om Kali Mahakali Kalike Parameshwari Sarvananda Kari Devi Narayani Namostute. Dear Cornelius, you ask, do I watch my old streams and feel like they aren't even me? I watch my streams from the very same day I recorded them and feel like they aren't even me. What to say of my old streams? I can't bear to watch. All right. Let's transition to our final segment of the Sangha. That is Nididhyasana. Thank you, dear Gina Gina, for your crystal rose, crystal rose. Om Vastudevataya Namah. So if you're interested in doing a mantra meditation, we will be doing so. Mantra yoga is probably my favorite yoga. At least whenever I am doing mantra yoga, it is my favorite thing to be doing. I just love it. Today's mantra comes from studying the Kamika Agama, a Dravidian scripture on many things, including but not limited to mantra creation. From the bija, which is we get the mantra Om Namo Vishnave, which means something like Om Bija, salutations to Vishnu. Who is Vishnu? Vishnu is the all-pervader. When we think of the divine, as that which pervades everything. The Sanskrit word for that aspect of divinity is Vishnu. And the dative form of that word is Vishnave, which means to Vishnu. Namo, coming from Nama, with the Visarga at the end changing due to the presence of a voiced consonant at the beginning of the next word, becomes Namo, meaning salutations. And that bija is said to have the essence of Vishnu contained within it. This comes from the fact that when you produce the sound that sound is made by bringing the wide part of your tongue close to your soft palate. That creates a natural opportunity for a metaphor. You see, in that space is a very wide area for resonance, not unlike the vibrations of the concept of Vishnu, which pervades the vast existence. Additionally, that region of the mouth is associated with the element of air, Vayu, which, much like the sky, pervades the whole world. It's also said that this bija mantra is dark blue in color, as per why the text is this color. You can meditate on that hue while we chant. And thirdly, it has the association of a certain Shakti, a certain power called Rakshakara, which means the power to grant protection. So this mantra is said to grant protection upon chanting it. We'll be doing it 108 times together. If you are interested, you are welcome to just listen. I'll turn down the background music so we don't have to worry about harmonizing. And if you'll allow me the honor, I will take this tulasi mala from your neck and we'll use that to count our repetitions. This material, tulasi, is said to be the wood from a goddess who is a devotee of Vishnu. So her tulasi malas are often used for this form of the divine. I've added some pronunciation tips below the translation. The O, A, E, these are all long vowels in terms of duration. The M with the dot under it at the end of O and is a nasalization. You don't have to close your lips like you would for M in English. And the dots underneath the S and N in Vishnave, that indicates these are retroflex, which means you curl your tongue back to pronounce them. I begin. Vishnave. I already forgot a word. I put the Namaha before. Okay. Now we're really beginning. Namo Vishnave. 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 Om 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 Im 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 Namo Vishnave. Om Om Namo Vishnave. Om Namo Vishnave. Om Namo Vishnave. Salutations to Vishnu, the all-pervader. May all who experience this mantra benefit from the power of being granted protection if one accepts and consents. Thank you for meditating. That concludes our Nididhyasana, and with it, our Sangha for today. So thank you for joining the Sangha together today. Let's get our background music back up in here. Oh, how angelic. Thank you, dear Inevitable, for the trio of roses you sent. Om Kang Namah Prajapataye. Dearest Dob Darker, thank you for the heart me you sent as well. Om Brahmane Namah. And Reina Priyaji, thank you for your septet of ice cream cones. Om Sadhyoja Tamprapadyami Sadhyoja Taya Vaidamo Namah. Bhave Bhave Nati Bhave Bhavaswabham Bhavod Bhavaya Namah. Thank you, Deanna, for the rosa as well. Om Vamadevaya Namo Jyeshtaya Namah Shrishtaya Namo Rudraya Namah Kalaya Namah Kalavikarnaya Namo Balaya Namo Balavikarnaya Namo Balapramatanaya Namah Sarva Bhuta Damanaya Namo Manonmanaya Namah. Good night, dear Noor. Dear Cornelius, you're wondering if I can send you a link to the music so your live streams don't feel like a void of awareness. I don't have a link because it's all downloaded. In theory, I could zip all of these audio files together and send them to you, but we'd have to arrange that. You can reach out to me, maybe email me. But if you want to know how I acquired these sound bites, I went onto SoundCloud and I just looked up royalty-free meditation music. Royalty-free is a way of saying no copyright, so you don't have to pay any royalties for using this music. Mind you, that's only a problem really if you want to monetize your live streams, if you upload them anywhere. I don't think TikTok really cares. YouTube does, however, and I actually haven't really minded much recently because I don't exactly monetize my videos anyway. So I have been using copyrighted music. But that's okay. Thank you, dear Gina, for your rose. Om aghorebhyo ta ghorebhyo aghora ghore tarebhya sarvata sarva sarvebhyo namaste rudra rupebhya. Dear Kevin, thank you for your heart meme. Om Ishana Sarva Vidyanam Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Brahmadipati Brahmanodhipatir Brahma Shivo Me Astu Sa Eva Sada Shiva Om. Thank you, dear Anasek, for your heart me too. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Dear Cornelius, you're wondering, can you turn off gifts? Yes, you do. I think you have the ability to make it so that people aren't able to send you gifts. Two issues with that you may have to navigate, however. The first is that TikTok will hardly give many audience members to you if you turn them off, so you might have a difficult time getting enough people that you want to send your message to. If that's not a problem, no problem. The second issue is that you're also depriving the people who give you something of the ability to provide a token of their gratitude. I never expect any gifts in my live streams, but I always appreciate them because I know that it feels good for the person giving to show their gratitude in some way, and I would hate to deprive them of that opportunity. But I always remind my audience that if you really want to support me, show kindness to the community, take that peace and love with you wherever you go, and that makes me the most happy to see. How do I pronounce your name? Ratzler. Thank you for the heart me you sent. Ham Jom Sa Bhur Swam Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiya Mamritat Am Swaha Bhuvaha Bhuhu Om Saha Jom Ham Om. Dear Boomerang Bits, you ask, but what path do I follow? I am on a pathless path, rummaging through the bushes. I like to go where those have not treaded before and take inspiration from every path that I stumble across. You have come at just the right time to say goodbye, dear Anasek. Dear Cornelius, you share the ego seeks to be validated. The gifts encourage the wrong view. To me, the ego is a beautiful part of one's being that is often mistranslated from the Anthakarana, known as the Ahankara, the inner faculty of our sense of self. There are two paths in the spiritual dimension. And that's the path of nivritti, the path of going beyond identification. And then there's the path of savritti, the path of creating an all-inclusive identification. You are absolutely valid whichever path you go. But the path of nivritti is very difficult. And I prefer the path of pravritti, path that actually uses the ego as a beautiful part of our experience. We all seek validation. We can use that in a good way. We can seek to be validated for how we bring love, light into this world. We can use that soundboard to reflect our own actions back at us, our own actions back at us. And we can enjoy our sense of self, as that too comes from the divine. Oh, you never have to apologize for the time you joined, dear Anazak. No one is ever expected to be here, and everyone may come and go as they please. And thank you, dear Anazak, for your 26 roses. Om Bhur-bhuvasvah Tatsavitur-varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. You like that word, bactions. Actually, the word action translates to karma itself. That is the literal meaning of action in Sanskrit, karma. So your translation of bactions being karma is on par, dear Gwendolyn Priya. Anywho, thank you all for being here in this space. I'm grateful to be a part of it. Thank you to my lovely moderators who help keep the peace. If there's anything I can do to make this space more inclusive for you next time, please let me know. This recording will be uploaded onto my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel, along with the meditation we did and the reading from Rumi, as well as from the 3rd chapter of the 2nd act of The Journey Home, in case you ever want to catch up on it. May this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to the light, from death to deathlessness. May there be peace in us, may there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. Regardless of if this is your evening, your afternoon, your morning, or your night, may you have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Namaste.